Hey kid, you like to go fast? You want to run through loops and get rings? Take this completely innocuous copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sega Genesis. Don't mind the crack that I shoved inside there. Just take this from me and get out of here quick. Have you or a loved one ever experienced this? A random stranger suddenly giving away a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog for the Nintendo Genesis. It's more common than you think. Everywhere, looking around every corner, a dirty speedster is waiting to give your children a copy of the hottest game on the block, Sonic the Hedgehog for the GameCube. Sonic is a classic game, the fastest platformer that used blast processing to blow young minds out of the water with intense parallax backgrounds and crazy waterfalls. These effects only being possible thanks to the processing power of the console. Sonic is known more for speed and less for platforming, which is really just because everyone that plays Sonic is dog shit and can't play the game, but that's besides the point. What matters is the original Sonic is the purest Sonic. Green Hill Zone is an excellent level, designed perfectly for speed, and Marble Zone hits the E-brake and says fuck you, enjoy some platforming you dumb bitch. But it's fair and balanced, and the platforming really suits Sonic's physics. Unlike a certain later level, Sonic the Hedgehog for the Xbox is the least explored game. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm the first person ever to beat Springyard Zone, and so I've discovered quite literally the worst fucking level in all of gaming history. Fun Sonic fact, his ass can't swim, and water slows him down. What better than a level specifically designed not just to slow you down, but to also force you to sit still while you wait for the world's worst underwater mechanic to arbitrarily decide if you could deliver or not. The level design is borderline incomprehensible. Enemy placements are sadistic, the music is fucking droning with this stupid twang that's constantly repeated, and in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Atari Jaguar, the zones have 3 acts instead of 2, which means there are 3 full levels of this garbage. It's a miracle Sonic ever recovered from the travesty that this level is. It goes against everything Sonic stands for. Precision, speed, the aesthetic is muddy, the background almost blends into the foreground. I don't know what twisted creature designed this Labyrinth zone, but this level not only makes me want to kill myself, it's also one of my favorite levels of all time. To be fair, you have to have a high IQ to understand Labyrinth Zone. If you enjoy getting beaten over the head with a rock, you will love Labyrinth Zone, and believe me, I love getting stoned. This level is so hard. Despite the fact that it was originally meant to be the second level in the game, it was pushed all the way to the 4th zone. Crazy fun fact. The thing about Labyrinth Zone is not that it's hard, but rather that it demands something most refuse to provide. It requires a deep and rich understanding. Thankfully, it's not much of a labyrinth. It's very straightforward. There are a couple alternate pathways for each act, but the stage itself is relatively simple. Instead, the difficulty comes from within. Labyrinth Zone requires a godly level of patience. You spend half the stage waiting, and the other half dying. It makes up for the lack in speed by being the first real roadblock of Sonic the Hedgehog for the calculator. Marble Zone has some tough platforming challenges, but it's very forgiving when it comes to mistakes. Labyrinth Zone will eat you up and spit you out. It's exhausting and exhilarating. Clearing this level feels like a genuine accomplishment, not because it requires an insane amount of skill, but rather because we as humans have comfort zones that we find ourselves in. We know what we know, and we're comfortable with that. The unknowns stress us because they often bring about change, and Labyrinth Zone provides that change in a meta sense. We play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and CD and 3 and Knuckles, and move on to the 3D games like Adventure, but sometimes we find ourselves back at the starting point. Sonic the Hedgehog for the Virtual Boy. It's archaic, and it's old, and it has its merits. It feels very rewarding to play. They did speed very well in this game, and they weren't afraid to make a good platforming challenge, even though Labyrinth Zone takes it too far. It's incredible the feelings it manages to make me feel. I believe we all have that one game we are dying to replay, but we don't because of that one part. And under normal circumstance, Labyrinth Zone would be that part. However, much like reclaiming a slur, it feels good to overcome something so blatantly cruel. A level so unapologetically sadistic, a level that literally drowns you in sorrow. And in reality, it's not even that hard. It's just like learning a completely different game where you die every 30 seconds if you don't touch a randomly spawning orb. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Atari links in general is pretty hard, and I like to think I, who have beaten it at least 12 times, am fairly good at it. However, Labyrinth Zone never fails to trip me up, just a little bit. And while I understand most people can't appreciate bad level design as good level design, I am a genius, far above the mere mortals who watch my videos, so I can truly appreciate garbage for what it is. In fact, I love garbage. I love water levels. I love going slow. Labyrinth Zone is a lot like a slow dance with your high school crush, but you turn into a werewolf that's on drugs. So you're stuck in slow motion. 90% of the zone is underwater, and is basically just bullshit caves strewn together paired with the most fucked up degenerate fucking traps ever. Like the shitty red guy enemy that shoots his fucking ball at you in a cramped space where you can't jump for shit. Or the good old Rising Platform Zone. Labyrinth Zone is proof that God is dead and his rotting corpse is what keeps this world turning. We humans are like the vultures, clawing at the bones of a dead god that puppeteers our world. Labyrinth Zone is a monument to humanity's sins, our inability, our fear, our pride. They set out to create a level worthy of Green Hill Zone, and they created an abomination that has killed millions of young hedgehogs out there. I love every second of it. The enemies are fair and balanced. We have classic heavy hitters such as the Fuck You Drill Guy, also known as the Burrow Bot, a fish, and then the worst enemy in the entire game, Ball. The Ball enemy is the most bastard fucker evil enemy ever invented. Its only purpose is to rob you of rings and prevent you from reaching the goal with 50 rings to get the bonus stage. For a first timer, this level is hard enough, managing your hog's oxygen, but also precarious platforming required to get to the end of the level, and the enemies are just cherry on top. Burrow bots are placed in the ground and only jump out when you get really, really close. The Jaws enemies just kind of float there, but the orb enemy is surrounded by 4 other spiky balls and will fire them. 3 fucking balls! Now what if I told you that not only is Labyrinth Zone 3 agonizing zones long, but Scrap Brain Zone Act 3 is actually just Labyrinth Zone Act 4. That's right. They swapped the colors, but this fucking zone is just goddamn Labyrinth Zone. It was so good they had to make a sequel. You know, if Green Hill Zone is so good, why is there no Green Hill Zone 2? People complain about AAA games nowadays reusing things, but Sega was doing it 30 years ago. This zone is really funny because it's one of the hardest in the entire game. Unless you go under the elevator and take the secret passageway that makes the level 20 seconds long. That reminds me of the Act 1 shortcut, which is one of the best kept secrets in gaming, where you can basically skip the entire zone. And that leads me, ladies and gentlemen, to my truest, most factual point on this channel. Water levels aren't that bad. There, I said it. Water levels aren't that bad. They're good. No, okay, I wouldn't go that far, but they aren't bad. I think going slow and having weird, awkward controls is good game design. That's right, not just good levels, but good game design. I love it when games treat me like an adult instead of a crying goo goo ga baba baby that can't use my thumbs properly. I like it when a game says, you know what, fuck you and eat shit. Labyrinth Zone is less like a labyrinth and more like a gauntlet of torture. Each zone is very unique, but they all share a common theme of branching pathways of varying difficulty. I honestly think what this zone lacks in speed, it more than makes up for in platforming challenge. And honestly, I've come to enjoy the level design, although it has many classic blunders, such as steep stairs that are annoying to climb, but Act 3 especially has some level design elements that are unique obstacles for a water level, and I feel like that's easily overlooked. This level requires patience to enjoy. It requires multiple playthroughs. It's one of Sonic's levels.
Drowning presents an overbearing figure on the platform, a time limit. Never mind the actual time limit. When there's a timer and then a countdown, it triggers my fight or flight, which will mess up even the best players from time to time. The boss is very unique. It's actually a platforming boss, one of the hardest ones in the game in fact, and boy is it frustrating, but I find it to be a very creative usage and summarization of the level design philosophy of this zone. Labyrinth Zone is an experiment, a kind of failed experiment. It's not nearly as good as the other Sonic levels comparatively, but seeing Sonic 1 as the first entry, I feel it best to give it some slack to the level design, because Sonic is the first of its kind, and the water was added to give Sonic a weakness and to shake things up, and to that end it succeeds. It's not the same type of fun as Green Hill or Spring Yard or Starlight Zone, but I believe it succeeds at being difficult and a challenging roadblock, because once you've mastered the water, you've mastered the game, and that is something I personally find fun. Sonic 1 for PC's impact is more than just wow, speed game go fast, and I think Labyrinth Zone is kinda a proto-Kaizo or troll game level design. I'm thinking like that one cat game, Cat Mario. Hear me out, right? Take the spring in Marble Zone, for example. Take the enemies, and then take Labyrinth Zone in its entirety. Sonic 1's difficulty only comes from the unknown. Because rings are so plentiful and so easy to get back, the game is designed to hit, crush, poke, and drown you in the most sadistic ways possible, and ways that make you go, okay, what the fuck? So modern games like Super Meat Boy, Cat Mario, Getting Over It, in a way, are all in the spirit of Sonic 1, all in the spirit of Labyrinth Zone. But wait, there's more. Sonic is designed to collect rings, and then when you take damage, you lose rings and become invincible, taking damage boosting and turning it into not just a technique, but an integral part of beating the level for the first time, which in a way is a dodge. Therefore, Sonic 1 is a Souls-like. Perhaps even the true ancestor. Sonic 1 is that missing link that finally connects the classic hit Pitfall to Dark Souls. Now, as you know on this channel, we love to dive deep into the game theory, the lore, and in the case of Labyrinth Zone, we are given one clue, and that is the setting. It's ancient ruins, and it's a labyrinth, meaning that it was built by prehistoric creatures with some purpose, perhaps to contain something, similar to the Minotaur Labyrinth from Christian mythology. Now, the easy answer would be a Chaos Emerald, hence why Eggfuck is here, but I do believe the true secret is Shadow Hedgehog. As we can see in the new Sonic Shadow Generations, Shadow is trapped inside a small cube that reuses Labyrinth Zone's tiles, and if we look even closer, we can finally unravel the true connections of Labyrinth Zone. Shadow the Hedgehog is in the Mario Minus World, the secret glitch from the first Super Mario game. That's right, Shadow is not only a Mario character, but clearly we are meant to draw parallels to real life, and Godzilla Minus 1 was released on the same day as Sonic 1. That's right, Labyrinth Zone was made to house the Shinden fighter plane. The famous plane is infamous for terrorizing innocent animals on the South Islands, so they crafted the Labyrinth, a maze of sights and sounds and smells in order to contain the beastly plane. But hey, that's just a theory! A correct and if you disagree, you're stupid theory! In conclusion, I love Labyrinth Zone. It's my best friend and one of my boyfriends. Sonic 1 is the better than 3. Thanks for watching.